Today's topic, you had the intuition to speak or communicate about ascension, which is a big topic within the spiritual community. And I also suggested that we can also speak about sex, which is another hot topic, literally, and perhaps also divisive in some ways, just as ascension speak, ascension talk can be. So where would you like to start?
I would say we start maybe with ascension and just like a overall roof for our theme today, because of course sex and ascension are related to one another, and we can look at it from different angles. But maybe we can just first, maybe you can share what you think what ascension is in your view. How would you explain or define it?
Yeah, that's a good question, because in my tradition, I don't know if I really have a tradition, but the tradition I spent most time within is the Zen Buddhist tradition. And at least as far as I know, or what I've seen or read, or they don't really speak explicitly about ascension. They speak about awakening or enlightenment, or they have different words for it: Kensho, Satori, and openings, and practicing, and just. But this, I guess, there's even in the Zen tradition, of course, there's this idea of becoming something, or getting somewhere, even though it's a kind of a paradox, because people who are experiencing it says that it is literally drinking water from the same river we are all standing in already. But that is not the actual experience until it is. So there is this shift. We can just call it a shift to from one state, or one way of being, you could say, into another way of being that is in the end the same thing. We're always in the same mind. It's the same love, the same world, but there's a shift that can happen. So, but that's not. So that has been my whole my tradition and path to sort of get there. And although I consumed a lot of material around spirituality, and I heard that concept about ascension and 3D, 4D, 5D, and I listened to some teachers speak about it, but it's just never been a part of my own experience. I know that the 3D world is like the physical world, and then there's the 4D, it's more at the soul world. I don't know, but I don't know too much about it, to be honest. So it would be interesting to hear from you.
Okay, thank you for sharing. You made me a little bit curious. It's a little bit out of the away from our path, but I would really like to know what it is in your tradition that you have studied and practiced and applied for so many years. What is the goal, or what is the purpose of it? Like, what do you then practitioners, I would say, focus on? Where are you heading?
In essence, nowhere, I think. In essence, it's just the practice is like Dogen Senji is one of the foremost teachers in Zen Buddhism. He says that taking the zazen posture, which is basically the meditation posture, is itself enlightenment. So, but he also said that studying Zen is to study the self, and to study the self is basically to forget the self. And to forget the self is to be enlightened by all things, or the enlightened mind, or just waking up. So that is a sort of a path, but it's not getting somewhere, because nirvana in the Buddhist tradition means cessation. So something stops, rather. Or we could speak about the ego, or the ego tendencies, or the monkey mind or whatever, that it stops, and then there is awakening, but it's not something you really get or go. It is already here. It's just turning down the music and realizing that the deep peace was here all along. So that is a sort of goal, but so it is a goal, and it also isn't a goal, because when that is your actual experience, you realize that it is where you've always been. You have always been home. It was just an illusion, or Maya, which is the Hindu tradition, to believe or think that it is not this, that this is not love, that this is not God, that you are not love or not God, whatever. So realizing who you are, basically, that is the goal, I would say.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I have never dived deep into Zen, but I know a little bit about it, but it sounds very much similar to the Buddhist teachings about the Heart Sutra that I've been studying for a few years. And these are actually some of my most favorite teachings. I have memorized the Sacred Heart Sutra 2 years ago, the whole lines in Chinese, and I actually chanted every day for about an hour. At this moment, it's an hour. And any time when I look at the translation, which my teacher, Dr. and Master Zhigang Sha, gave, I have a version that he translated. It is so deep, and but it's exactly the state. It's exactly what you say, basically to forget about, to let go of everything, to let go of thoughts, and just be present in the nothingness or stillness. Or so I see that it sounds very similar to the Buddhist teachings and the Heart Sutra. But in the Heart Sutra, it actually says that it doesn't say that we rise up or that we ascend. This word never, it doesn't appear in this whole thing, but it talks about the Kong. Kong. This is the place of oneness or stillness or nothingness, and according to some other teachings, some scientists and also some people who study physics and quantum physics, they talk about different vibration, and they talk about that we rise from a lower vibration to a higher vibration, and they actually measure vibration, and vibration can be measured in the modern world with different instruments. And in my understanding, the Kong, or this it's also called to get to the other shore, to go from one side to the other. I believe that this is a very high vibration. Not like that I've been there, like I can say, oh, I have explored it so much. But whenever I reach in my meditation this place of stillness, and this place of where my thoughts stop or become less, or I even lose a sense of my body, or all the kind of different experiences we can have when we meditate, I feel extremely uplifted. So therefore, I believe there is ascension, because in the beginning of my meditation, when I start to practice, like this morning, I practiced at 4 a.m. I stood up before 4 to do my meditation, and I was extremely tired and exhausted from the last week. And I reached a deep place, a deep state of meditation or consciousness, and I felt very peaceful and very uplifted. So therefore, I kind of like the words ascension, or that we want to get somewhere, but at the same time, of course, it is all within us. I totally believe this, and it's already there. It already is. It already exists. So I think for me, it's more like aligning with it, or tuning in it, or melting with it, what already exists. Yeah, but I like it. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about Zen, because I had the feeling that I would, that it would resonate with me. and I see the similarities. So
I could just say that the Heart Sutra, when we are at Zen retreats, or if you live as a monk, you recite it every day. So I also know it by heart because I've recited it in Swedish done hundreds and hundreds of times.
you know it in Swedish?
Yes, we do the recitations in Sweden, in Swedish in the Swedish Zen. The Zen center that I've been to in Stockholm and in Arboga.
Wow.
So
Thank you for sharing. You never spoke about this. I had no idea. This is
yeah,
amazing. So, you know, is this a text that was printed somewhere? It's in a book? Can people have
I
access
think
to
this
it?
is it's I think it's online. It's we have it in a recitation book where we have a lot of Zen. The Heart Sutra is the highest of teachings in the Zen tradition. So it is that and perhaps the Diamond Sutra too, and but the Heart Sutra is definitely, as far as I know, the core teaching of it, and it contains everything. And like you say, it speaks about going beyond everything. Even the end of it says, gatte gatte paragatte parasangati bodhisavaha is beyond, even more beyond, even more beyond. Oh, how wonderful! Something like that is one translation. So, but I can send it to you and perhaps link in the description. I think it's online on sasen.se. I think it was translated into English first, and then our teachers, our Swedish teacher who are in a certain Zen lineage, translated it into Swedish.
Wow, I would love to. I would love to look at this. This is when I just speak about the Heart Sutra, I have tears in my eyes. This is one of my most favorite mantras of all times, and I discovered it pretty late on my journey. You know, I only knew the last part for a few years, and then I really started studying it a few years ago, and I love it so much. It's something really, it's something that really touched me very deeply, and that I simply love to practice. I just love to sing it, but I sing it in Mandarin, so I would love to learn this in Swedish. It'll be amazing. Thank you. Wow. So we touched something very big today. The Heart Sutra is one of the biggest teachings of all times, but um, we will when we go back to ascension, I would like to share with you and our viewers that I do personally believe that everything in the universe is energy, and energy is vibrating. And when energy can vibrate in a certain frequency, and like you described earlier, that the third dimension and the fourth and the fifth dimension and higher, I truly I believe in this, and this is something that I can experience throughout my day. Sometimes when I really have a negative thought or an emotion, and then I literally can sense that my frequency and my energy is dropping. It's not like losing energy, because this is something different in my experience and observation. Losing energy is something different. We can lose energy, for instance, when we are angry or when we are very afraid. We release a lot of energy, and we will talk about sex too. So it's good. It's also losing energy, but I can sense when my frequency drops. I can sense when I'm like, when I really, when I have some negative thoughts, and of course, thoughts impact our vibration instantly. And when I vibrate lower, and like, for instance, when I just chant the last few lines of the Heart Sutra, just maybe 3 times, I can instantly feel an upliftment. So I believe that ascension is pretty real, simply because this is what I observe in my life. And I believe in physics, we have this curve, and also in in the medicine, the heart line, when it's flat, one is dead, right? Otherwise, it's like this. So I think that life is about this curve up and down, but it's also actually slightly going upwards. That's the goal. So that's the goal of my path, and I believe that this is actually the goal of the true love journey, to unite. We will talk about union, so that we, and this is mainly our soul, but also our heart, mind, and body, can be uplifted to a higher frequency and vibration, and live and stay there, live in this higher frequency and vibration. It's not like a one-time visit. Hello, today I feel good and I speak and think pure thoughts, but in the next moment I do this. No, it's like to really maintain this high frequency. And in the teachings of my teacher, who's a Tao master, so he teaches the ancient Tao, and also new Tao wisdom, because he's such a pure channel that he simply can bring forth new wisdom through his channels. He very clearly talks about the dimensions and actually explains very clearly where, for instance, the Buddhas are, or the Bodhisattvas, in which dimension. You mentioned that in the fourth realm there are more the saints, and of course in the fifth realm this is not, to us, it's just a soul realm. They have a body, but a soul body. These are light beings, but it is not materialized, I say. So the third dimension is materialized, and it's much lower. It vibrates much lower. And the consciousness here on Earth, generally speaking, isn't so high and anymore. And how can we dare to say that? We can simply look at the world and we see what is happening. For me, high consciousness represents that we have the desire, or we aim for, creating love, peace, and harmony, living in love and peace and harmony with ourselves, with our beloved ones, with maybe our partner, our true love soulmate, as well as our community, and bigger, and the nation, and Mother Earth, and heaven. So it doesn't look to me at this moment like that. I know it's a lot of people already who are focused on this goal to create love, peace, harmony, and to bring peace to Earth. But generally speaking, I think that the focus isn't there yet fully. To really, when we would all really focus on creating peace, we would be probably chanting the Heart Sutra 5 hours a day and just do that. Yeah, so I really believe in ascension, and I believe that the true love path, like really meeting, focusing on the true love path, and as well as meeting someone, can lift us up very much, can be very supportive and a very enlightening experience. But it can also pull us pretty much down. And, we have in our language the term to fall in love. And I recently read a few times, it's coming up online, to rise in love, right? Because actually, I think everybody who has experienced this, when we are in love, we feel uplifted. I don't know. Of course, there are ups and downs, but generally speaking, this experience of love is very uplifting. And this is the case because love is a high vibration, and so is peace, and so is forgiveness. In comparison, for instance, to frequencies like fear or greed or anxiety or guilt, these are lower vibrations. Yeah, so I believe this true love path. On this true love path, we can rise each other very much when we focus on that. And there are different techniques.
Yeah, should we do one?
Yes, we can do one.
To raise our vibration. I think I imagine that I think the pushback from some people is with raising the vibration. I totally agree that just looking at the literature all over the world, and there are thousands of books that speaks about raising the vibration in different ways, in all kinds of different areas. So there's definitely something to it, I think too. Um, so so I imagine that some people find the idea of sort of becoming better, and it can almost be like when you have to eat just high vibrating food, you need to only meet with high vibrating people, and as soon as you get a negative thought, you're kind of lower in the hierarchical ascension rung, and it can be it just doesn't to think like that. I think can be for me, in the end, it's just whatever is functional for you, whatever works. It doesn't really matter to me what anyone thinks, including myself. As long as I'm living a good life and enjoy myself, I'm good towards other people, and but those kinds of ideas, it's a bit like almost like the bad side of The Secret, that we can sort of vibrate our world into existence, and we can have everything we want if we just eat the right food and read the right books and vibrate in the right way, and it just and on the opposite of that, of course, so when bad things happen to you, it's because you vibrated in a bad way. So that's why you're ill, and that's why, and that's just thinking about the spiritual masters that have passed away, like Ramana Maharshi, for example, one of the greatest sages of all time, according to many. He got cancer and died. His friend at the same time, Nisargadatta Maharaj, he also got cancer. And contemporary teachers like Adyashanti, his non-dual teacher, he also has this problem with his stomach, and it seems like if they were high vibrating, why did they get ill? That's a
very good question. You have an answer?
I think that we can't. I think that there are some things like physical illnesses that we can't vibrate away. Maybe I don't know, or maybe we can, but I don't think it's because they're not enlightened enough. Because those are the people that were the most awake. I mean, to my at least, when you read what they write, they're basically saying the same things that is in the Heart Sutra that we spoke about. So I just see them as high vibrating people, so to speak, if there is anyone. But they also got into this sickness and old age and death, like everyone else before them.
Yeah, because this is in the Tao teaching. This is how our life goes: birth, growing up, getting older, sick, and die. There is actually a sutra in the Tao teachings, and I like what you said, because the way how you described it, like it's sometimes discussed in the world, is when it would be so easy, just have your high vibrational food and whatever, then everybody would be completely enlightened already. Then we would have a completely different state on Earth. If it would be so easy, right? So, and I believe it's not, and there's a little bit more into it. And from the perspective of the Tao science, which my teacher and a doctor of physics have been explaining since a couple of years, which is based on Tao wisdom, but it is a scientific formula that it's like a scientific formula that can explain our life. It's like Einstein's grand unification formula. This is what Einstein was working on for many years of his life. And my teacher and this doctor of physics, Dr. Rulin, they actually created a formula that took Einstein's formula one step higher. And this formula can explain why actually even people who vibrate high might get sick. The sickness is not only an expression of low vibration, actually. It is an expression of that the soul, heart, mind, and body in an area of our being, because in our teaching, our liver has a soul, heart, mind, and body. Our heart has a soul, heart, mind, and body. Our knee has a soul, heart, mind, and body. It is called Shen, which means soul, heart, and mind, translated from Mandarin. Then Qi, which is energy, and Jing, which is matter. So soul, heart, mind, and body, or matter. This is what everything is made of. They say this is a universal law, like the law of yin and yang, or the law of 5 elements, or the law of universal service. So they explain that the whole world is made of Shen, Qi, Jing, soul, heart, mind, energy, and matter. And sickness occurs when soul, heart, mind, energy, and matter are not as one. And one can have a very bright mind and be very smart and have a very pure heart, but one can still die from kidney cancer. Because this is an area of our being where in this area, the soul, heart, mind, and body of the kidney is not aligned. So there are blockages. We can also say scientifically there is lower information. So in quantum physics, they don't divide negative and positive information. I believe that they haven't done this so much. I'm not a physicist, so if I'm wrong and you know more, just correct me. But in Tao science, we clearly say there's positive information and there's negative information. And because it's a yin and yang law, it must be this way because we have yin and yang in the world. So when there is positive, there must be the opposite. So there is positive and negative information. And information is what determines the vibration. And of course, the more positive information we have, the higher we vibrate. So now you can see how ascension works in our terms is when we release or transform negative information, and negative information could be a negative memory or trauma or fear or anger or simply feeling disconnected, like a negative feeling. So this is negative information. And negative information determines, it's stored on the soul level, which is the highest level of our being. It's stored on the soul level, and the negative information impacts our heart, because our heart is a receiver of information. And then it impacts our mind. Our mind is a processor of information. So when we have a negative information, it impacts our heart. That's why the Heart Sutra is so important. Then our mind is negatively influenced. Then we have negative thinking. And then it determines how our chi flows. And in Cancer, there is negative information in one area where the cellular vibration is increased, where it's too much chi, and chi can't flow well. So this is how it transforms to matter, and cancer cells are produced. So the negative or positive information goes to the heart, the mind processes the information, and then the mind makes the chi and the body move, and the body is the transformer. So what it means that when we have a sickness, for instance, we are aware that there's something not in balance because we have symptoms. We can actually use our mind, our soul power, as well as our body, because we can use mudras and hand positions or tai chi or yoga to actually transform the negative information in one area of our our being, or in our life, or in a relationship. So this is a little bit how we would explain this, though it doesn't mean that a high-level master who's vibrating very high doesn't have any area anymore in life where there are negative information that lower the vibration or cause blockages and suffering. And the negative information can manifest anywhere in the body, and it can manifest anywhere in life. It can manifest in our finances. It can manifest in our business dealings. Do we attract people or not? Do we have great collaboration? Do we have a pure communication or not? So negative information can impact everything, and so can positive information. So the Heart Sutra says, the moment you feel not aligned, simply chant the sutra. In Mandarin, it's Jedi, the last lines. So this is what it says in order to transform the negativity. I know there are a lot of teachings that say it's a mind that creates everything and that the mind can have a negative impact. And I remember you said like, oh, you have one negative thought and you could drop. I have heard these teachings. I have also experienced these teachings, actually. I have experienced the power of the mind, how one negative thought can completely pull you down. And in the Tao teachings, we say one thought can rise you to heaven or bring you to hell. And I have really experienced this myself in a situation that was so profound to me that I never forget it. So it taught me to be very careful of my thoughts. But in our teachings or in the Tao science, the mind is an issue, or it can be an issue that blocks our life. But the true problem is the information on the soul level, which actually impacts the mind. Yes, it also works other way around. When we have negative thoughts, we create more and more negative information. But when we don't have negative information in our consciousness, most likely we won't have polluted thoughts. So, and the solution of to rising up from a low field like a sickness or emotional suffering is actually to transform the negative information. And then the monkey mind can stop. Because I know there are some teachings about the monkey mind and how we want to transform the mind and consciousness, but it's so hard. And why is it so hard? Because we still have so much pollution in our heart and soul. So that's why the purification of the heart is the key, because the heart in the Tao teachings is holds the mind and the soul. But the transformative power is within the soul. The soul, the true essence, has the power to transform everything. So this is a little bit about ascension, and maybe also a little bit answering the question that you stated, or the comment you made about the true masters who had really still suffering.
Yeah, that's interesting. So there can be like different parts of even an enlightened being that is more or less or contains more or less information, and depending on in different organs, like you say, in the physical, but also related to that individual soul's path as well, which is, as I understand it, a lot of ways in I think in the Tao teachings with the soul, which I think is really interesting with the soul and soul path, and even looking back at having these choosing an incarnation, which is in a lot of spiritual traditions, and even choosing certain illnesses and choosing having a difficult life, choosing to have to ascend, or at least however you want to contextualize or think about it, but go through trials and tribulations, or ascend, or overcome difficulties, and learn and develop in some ways, in a relative sense. But I was thinking in regards to that, we spoke about doing an exercise maybe related to purification of the heart or the soul in some way. What do you think about that?
Now, this is a great idea. Because I shared the sacred formula as the formula that my teacher and this doctor of physics created is called S, which stands for soul or Shen, plus E, which stands for energy, plus M, and you recognized M and E from Einstein, and then equals 1. So this is the formula: S plus E plus M equals 1. And in my experience, this is one of the most powerful formulas to create oneness, to experience oneness and alignment, and heal and ascend and rise up, whatever. So I can make an invocation, or we can do an invocation and chant the formula. The long chanting of it is Shen Qi Jing. Shen stands for soul, heart, and mind. Qi for energy, and Jing for matter. And then we say in Mandarin He Yi, which means join as one. So the idea is that when Shen Qi Jing, soul, heart, mind, energy, and matter are aligned, this is a state of Kung, oneness, emptiness, nirvana. This is the highest state. When everything is aligned, then we are completely healthy and completely enlightened, one can say. So chanting this formula can be very powerful, especially when we, for instance, focus on something, like when you, for instance, address something, a pain or a discomfort, and you really dedicate this practice to that area. So this is what I would suggest, not for now, just to experience it, to choose one area where we would like to focus on. Can be the heart, or it can be the mind or a lower abdomen, maybe you have pain. And the way how we do it is we simply make a soul power invocation to connect with the area or the request that we want to transform. And there is a special hand position we can apply when we do a soul power invocation, where we place our left palm in front of our heart area and the right palm in front of our left palm. And this hand position is called Soul Light Era hand position. The Soul Light Era is in the Vedic teachings, the golden era. This is the area we are living in now. It began on August 8, 2003. And this is the mudra for this era. So we can close our eyes and choose one area, one aspect that we want to heal or bring more into oneness condition. I'm, for instance, going to focus on my back, because I have been sitting a lot on the desk and feel tension in my back area. So when we have chosen one area, this is what we say. Dear soul, heart, mind, and body of, for instance, the back, or the shoulder, the neck, the kidneys, whatever. And then we say, I love you. You have the power to heal yourself. Do a good job. Thank you. And then we connect with the mantra. The mantra has also a soul, heart, mind, and body. Everything is made of Shen Qi Jing. So we say, dear soul, heart, mind, and body of the sacred grand unification formula, S plus E plus M equals 1, or in Mandarin, Shen Qi Jing He Yi. I love you. I honor you. I deeply appreciate you. Could you please offer me a healing for my request? Thank you. And what we can do now, we can apply hand power, hand position. We can put our hands on the area that is, for instance, hurting. The back, the neck, the shoulder. For me, it's almost my left shoulder, the back, and the left shoulder. And the other hand we place on the lower abdomen. When it's a place that we can't reach, we can simply place the hand both on the lower abdomen or one hand on our heart. Where we put our hand, this is also where energy flows, where healing goes. And we visualize a golden light ball in this area that we are now healing. This is self-healing. This is universal healing. This is also soul healing. And the mantra can be simply repeated like Shen Qi Jing He Yi, but there is actually a melody that I pretty much like, so I'm just going to sing it, and if you like, you can tune in. It's very easy to memorize. It's very simple too. So we start to chant, we keep our focus in the area that we are healing, we visualize the golden light there, and we sing. Shen Qi Jing He Yi, 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 Shen Qi Jing He Yi. And we chant now for a moment silently. And one more time out loud, because the loud chanting vibrates bigger cells and spaces. The silent chanting vibrates the smaller spaces and tiny cells. So one more time loud. Shen Qi Jing He Yi, 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 Shen Qi Jing He Yi. Now again silence. And then we take a deep breath into our lower abdomen, as well as into the area that we were healing. And we fully exhale, and we can release our palms, our mudra, and move, stretch, whatever feels good to us right now. How did you experience that?
Yes, thank you. No, yeah, I was just, it's just so healing, or feels good to just take time off and focus your attention on something you want to heal yourself or whatnot. And it's just so different from being in the world and doing things. It was just something that struck me. On top of that, the actual practices that we did also felt good.
Yeah, but it's very right what you say. It's really going inside, and this is such a beautiful experience just to be there for a short while during the day. Consciously focus inside. Um, I actually really feel a relief. Honestly, I should have done this much earlier. It's really getting better. I was just thinking that at the end today, before we close, I would be delighted to offer a blessing with Tao calligraphy, because there is a book about what I just spoke. And in that book is exactly this calligraphy, and we can apply the calligraphy to get more healing, because the calligraphy has a higher frequency and vibration than the chanting alone. And maybe we can give this to our viewers at the end of this session today. I have it right here in my shelf. All
Yeah,
right.
great, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I came to think of oftentimes we had the subject of sex. Maybe someone's wondering why we. I was thinking maybe it was just a teaser and not say anything about it, but we. I guess we can. And regarding this, it in some ways it can be seen as something which is almost the opposite of ascension, because in many traditions, sex is viewed as something kind of low vibrating, just as wanting. In the Buddhist tradition, there's this to transcend grasping and aversion. So grasping, if it's sugars or more money or sexual partners or whatnot, and in that sense, it's something that, like we said, some traditions asks us to actually abstain from indefinitely or for your whole life, to live as a monk or a nun and not have any sexual connections at all. And there are some traditions that is okay with it, but doesn't really have any practices, and also ask us to avoid, too much of it, just like too much of anything is unhealthy, or at least not doing it in a way that isn't good for you. And then there's even sort of tantric practices that kind of embraces even sexuality and asks us to like we did now, focus our attention on specific areas or parts or ways of being during the sexual act or during intimacy, that we can even help us to even ascend. So I guess most things in life can either help us, and just like working out in the gym, doing it too much, we can hurt ourselves or we can get ill by it, but it can also strengthen us. And food can help us or not. Even water, drinking too much will kill us. So sex and sexuality, I guess, can be used, some traditions say we can use it in a positive way. But I remember now that you had you said that your view of it may be, how do you say, in a way opposite to how many people view it, or controversial in some way. So I'm curious to know what that was.
Thank you. Well, I have, of course, thought about this, like you also, when you do spiritual practices and you absorb different teachings. And I thought about sexuality deeply, as well as about having a relationship. And what is for some people not necessarily some people have a lot of sex without having relationships, and some people have relationships without sex. So it's both. And one of the things that I have experienced myself was that when I found myself reflecting about the guidance, I was trying to find answers in the spiritual books. I didn't study the Bible so much, but the Vedic books or the Taoist books. And I just had a very, maybe you can say, naive conclusion one day. This is probably, we're talking 20 years back, when I was really just young and exploring. I realized that there's a saying, as above, so below. So I was wondering, do the enlightened beings or do the light beings actually practice sex, any form of union, any form of connection? And I had just the realization that they do, that they do, and therefore it gave me a little relief from some of the teachings that we have in the world, that it's something dirty or polluted, right? And but this is not the whole picture. When we really look about really think about sexuality, we find these teachings, we have to ask ourselves, where does it come from? Why do they say you should, of course, you should not be attached to anything according to the spiritual teachings. You should release attachments, of course. But why do some really say you should completely restrain from it? And even there are places where you do chastity vows, serious vows of chastity. And I can share a little bit about this from my personal experience. But what I found is that, number one, whenever we connect with one another, we exchange energy. We also exchange information. So basically, when we are speaking, we are exchanging energy. We are exchanging wisdom. We are exchanging also information. The soul frequency, the light flows between us, between our hearts, and so on. And we do also exchange negative information. So on the soul journey, in the tradition where I am rooted in, we talk about Xiulian, which means purification journey, the purification of the soul, heart, mind, and body. So let's say one practitioner like you were very young when you started with all of this, decides, that's what I've done in my 20s, I don't want to pollute myself any longer. I know the decision was I want to purify myself, and I want to do everything that I can not to accumulate more pollution. So it is a very natural consequence to think about with whom we connect, in what ways, because everybody has their own pollution or purity or not. So I was very young and living in a city, which was Berlin, a city that never sleeps and where everything is possible. And everything includes really everything. So I was never drawn to places where clubs where people just had sex. You know, in Berlin, there are clubs where people have sex. I don't want to say it's normal, but it exists. A normal, we don't have to talk about what's normal. But I felt intuitively one time I was standing in the queue of such a club in the after hours, and my friends really wanted to convince me, and they told me, "Oh, don't worry, it's all over. They are all drunk. They all went home, and so on. It's just the music, And I stood in front of it, and I simply couldn't go in, because to me, at that time, my third eye channel wasn't as open as it is now 20 years later. But to me, it felt so polluted. It felt so dense and dark, and I could smell the smell of whatever. And I said, I'm not going to do this. In the Tao teachings, it said, when a fish swims in polluted water, the fish will get sick and die. So I decided as a young woman, I don't want to pollute myself. So why would I consciously choose to go to places that are polluted? And I decided I don't want to pollute myself, including in the way how we exchange energy, because many people don't know that. Maybe some of your viewers probably do know when they are used to listen to your Zen teachings and everything you share. But when we unite in the physical form, in a sexual act, we exchange karma. We exchange also negative information. And in some traditions, like in the indigenous teachings, it said that a woman, when there was no protection, like we have the modern ways to protect a pregnancy, that a woman absorbs this information and it will stay with her for several years until she releases it, because a woman is actually the one who receives. This is a yin and yang principle, general speaking. So the divine counterpart gives and the other one receives. So the woman is actually absorbing everything, the positive and the negative. So therefore, I believe this is one reason that many spiritual teachings and traditions, it's said to be careful with it, because when you seriously dedicate your journey to purify your soul, heart, mind, and body, to uplift your frequency and vibration, it is a risk to unite with someone and to absorb their pollution And then you have to take care of it, because this is how it is. When you absorb it, when you have drink polluted water, when you eat polluted food, you have to process it. So I think this is one reason why there is recommendation to stay away from it. And the second reason, which is actually much more important and which really made sense to me when I heard it the first time, is coming from the Tao, the ancient Tao teachings. When the man and the woman practice sexuality together, they not only exchange the energy, the soul, heart, mind, and body energy, the real matter, they lose matter. They release. When they practice and they ejaculate, they release. And in the Tao teachings, the whole Tao journey is about purifying the soul, heart, mind, and body, uplifting the frequency and vibration, and actually building the light body, accumulating pure positive energy to the physical body so that the body becomes completely enlightened and eventually an immortal. I mean, we know not so many in the history have reached that state, but there are some who have reached that state that we know of. So this is the goal of a Taoist practitioner. So therefore, in the Tao teaching, it said, stop practicing sex, or at least ejaculations. And there are teachings how man and woman can have an orgasm internally. And this is what you mentioned, or maybe you referred to this when the tantric teachings. There's a lot about this, how to unite and actually make the energy circulate and rise energies up and move them in a certain ways in the body, to have a different form of experience in the sexual praxis than the normal way, how, we rise up very fast and then we release and we lose what is called Jing. So in the Tao teachings, Jing is the matter, and the kidneys produce the Jing, and this is of course the sperm, as well as the woman has also liquids. So the Jing it's crucial to keep the Jing, because this is for rejuvenation. And in the ancient years, the emperors had a lot of women. They had like 10, 20 wives, and then they were wondering why they were dying so young. They had a lot of sex and they were losing a lot of Jing. So the Tao master, sometimes, the emperor called the Tao master when they were sick. So they called a wise man from the mountains, and then they gave them recommendation. You have to stop having so much sex because you are hurting your health and you are shortening your life. So that's why in Tao teachings it is said, you can do what you want, but it is not recommended because we lose Jing.
I guess they didn't like that advice.
No. There are teachings where emperors threw out the wise men from their property, never wanted to hear about this man. But then they met them like years later, and the emperor was gray and lost his hair. When you lose Jing, when men lose too much Jing, they actually lose their hair. This is very common traditional Chinese medicine wisdom. Every Chinese doctor knows that wisdom. So the emperor who had a bald head and wasn't in a good shape, and the Tao master who was thrown out looked like a young baby and was radiating and super healthy. So then the emperor realized, oh, maybe there is something into that. Yeah, that's
okay.
From this perspective.
Yeah. So yeah, as I interpret it, so what from the Taoist teachings, or from your perspective, to that in a way, or sex can be good, but we need to be aware of who we are having sex with or exchanging information with, and also the way we are doing it. So for men, and of course that is what I read too in a lot of the tantric or esoteric Vedas, like you said, they tend to recommend what's called sometimes semen retention, or like you said, that we make a process throughout the body instead, and do not ejaculate, especially for the men. But even for women, in some ways, to not have the explosive orgasms, maybe, and have more awareness even there, to not, in a way, almost like spiritual practice, to not lose yourself totally, to always be present, which is that's not it's not the same high, I guess, but many people who practice it says that it becomes even more fulfilling, and even a spiritual practice, and that's combining sexuality or sex with or it becomes a spiritual practice, like everything in life. Of course, everything in life is, we can put our attention on it and make that a practice. It's just that, and especially when something is really, how do you say, um, when it's very uh, intense for us, the more, so it's harder in that way. So that's why it's even harder in the sexual, to be fully aware. You also become aware, but yeah, that was what my takeaway from what you said.
We might be not aware, but there is a lot of pollution in the human realm and in the realms of relationships. And there is a lot of unhealthy traits like abusive relationships, addictive relationships, obsessive relationships. And this is something that is, of course, exists. Everything is part of the existence. But when we really want to reach higher levels of enlightenment, or the highest state of enlightenment, we have to remove these pollutions. And this is also one reason why it's recommended that we kind of are mindful about our sexual practices, because when we carry these pollutions within us, maybe from other lifetimes, we don't know, this negative information can activate and people can get obsessive or addictive or whatever, and they can create more darkness within themselves and within their lives. And we have to maybe also mention that there's nothing wrong with the sexual power, with sexual energy, and with sexuality itself. It's more about how the spiritual teachers see it, is what we actually do with it, how we apply it. When we apply it, or when we try out tantric practices, this is with the purpose for enlightenment. So it is to connect more with the source within, with the source in the universe. And it's, well, when we have duality, yin yang world, it's for a good purpose. But there are also sexual powers that are abused in many, many forms in the world, and where there's a lot of harm created and a lot of suffering. And this is something that the spiritual seekers, of course, want to be mindful about. And for me, when I look at the tool of path, I very often speak about that there's not such a need to have many different partners and different sexual partners and different relationships. I believe more in this way that we can experience everything with just one person, with one relationship, when with a committed relationship, which is, of course, the benefit that we don't absorb the negative information from many different people, and create the bonds and the change and the karmic strings that force us very often to come back and repeat the cycles, for those who believe in reincarnation. Because for the people who really want to reach the highest levels of enlightenment, I haven't said this before, but the goal is to stop reincarnation. But when I create attachments and all kind of bonds and strings to different souls in one lifetime, I might have a lot of business to take care of, and I might have to come back next life to clear that out. And this is the problem. That's also the reason why the high masters teach us, be mindful, and maybe one is enough. I read yesterday a quote, I think from Confucius or Lao Tzu, I'm not sure. It says, "The one who chases 2 rabbits won't catch any." I was thinking, wow, this is true. Impossible, right? So, yeah, this is what I wanted to add. Anything you would like to add or ask?
Yeah, I think this is maybe in light of what we spoke about earlier. There are, it's like there are many things that can be true at the same time. So there is ascension, and we can work out and eat healthy food just to feel better and be better. And we can, like on a soul level, we can do soul practices, and we can feel better on a soul level in a way. And we can speak about reincarnation, and like in many traditions, the goal is to end reincarnation, however you want to think about it. But one way of thinking about it, of course, is just the regular way that we are, in a sense, souls that reincarnate because of some scars in some traditions, or because of karma, and we have these patterns, like you say, that can be enforced through sex or different types of grasping and aversion, and we need to, because of that and because of unconsciousness, we reincarnate over and over. At the same time, there's this what we spoke about in the beginning. There's this heart sutra, and the way I see it, or the way I interpret it at least, is that the end again, gatta, paragatta, parasangata, and even before that, they, I don't know if it's the Heart Sutra or some other sutra, but we do these things. We kind of we experience oneness, we experience love, we realize who we are, but then we go even further, even beyond that. We go even beyond oneness, and we also go beyond reincarnation. We also go beyond ascension. So in a way, everything is Maya. In a way, everything is illusion. Everything we think, everything we do, everything we can even imagine is just an imagination. And when we wake up even from that. So we wake up even from reincarnation. So in the end, it's even in one way of saying is that even reincarnation isn't even true. Nothing is true. Nothing is also not true either. So it's another Buddhist teaching about neti, not this, not that. So it's not that we don't reincarnate. It's not that we reincarnate. It's not something in between, and it's not neither. It's something beyond. It's gatta, parasamgata, and something that goes even beyond that. I just like that way of it becomes something that, maybe it's in a contrast to at least how I lived my life, being in the sort of ascension lane and doing all the spiritual practices, trying to do all the things and trying to get somewhere. And then, from my own experience at least, and that those are good things. Of course, it's good even just for the physical body, for your emotional and spiritual, and that's what all of these spiritual traditions recommend for us, to actually do these spiritual practices. I don't think any spiritual tradition that doesn't recommend it. Maybe there is, but almost all of them do. Do meditations, like eat some food recommendations, perhaps some abstain from sex. So those are good things, but then there's also this other, yeah, I just like that too, that there's this other side too of just deep rest in a way, that we can sort of realize. And for me, it has turned out or changed into being more, I'm less focused on doing all these things that I used to do, because my experience is more of how I interpret this last phrase in the Heart Sutra. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes total sense to me. I think that maybe this is a natural process of practicing and studying and doing all of this, that we on some point reach the place where we just are, where we just, just exist in the interpretation of the Heart Sutra that my teacher gave. It talked about using the fake body, that everything is an illusion, but using the fake body to reach the highest state. And the last lines that you have quoted a few times, he translates it with become a Buddha. Become a Buddha, everyone become a Buddha. So it is using this fake body to reach the highest state of enlightenment, liberation, whatever. But it is probably really the path from doing to not doing, like the Wu teachings. And the original Tao teaching says that every wisdom without practice, without application, is just theory. It's just a theory. So practice is very important, but it's also the way how we interpret practice. We of course have learned to chant and to meditate, or to maybe do 108 sun salutations a day. This is practice, but just being is practice in my view also. Then we have already reached a state where everything that we are doing is, when I first started to do all of this, all I wanted is to please God. I was like, I don't want to do anything anymore that would upset the divine. So I want to purify. I want to be a better human, and I want to do only the things that would make God's heart sing. When I turn off the light in the evening and God looks down at me, that He will say, "Okay, she really tried her best." And I think now this thing turns on that at the end of the day, it can be that we live a life which is just joy and pleasure, that we are just there, and we are so in this divine state, in this divine bliss, that we don't perceive any, we don't feel the separation not from the divine, not from the soul inside, not from anyone. We feel just this, we are aware of this truth of union, which, because this is a higher truth, that we are actually all united, and whatever you do impacts me, whatever I think has an impact on you, and we can live in this state, and it doesn't matter what we do at the end, if we really practice, or if we are just here, we just exist. But then again, there are some people who say, when you don't do Shulian practice, you waste your life. So it's I think that we all have to find our own truth. And for me, it's like, because to make the reference back to the true love path, it's really seeing the divine inside of ourselves, which is mirrored to us through our partner, in our relationship. We are just reminded of our own grace. We are just reminded of our own divinity, and we are just reminded of our own beauty. And when we are in this condition, when we are really reminded and aware of it, we are also seeing and honoring Namaste, the divine aspect in the other one. And when we are completely conscious about this, how we can then do harm to anyone. Just knowing this is a very high level of of realization, or maybe of an enlightenment state, that we are so connected, and when I have a negative thought, it will impact you, and when I have a negative feeling, it will impact you. And I don't want to do that, so I will discipline myself so I don't do any harm to you, because in my eyes you are divine and I want to please God. So that's my whole concept of life. So I will try to live my life in purity and and do what I believe benefits that. But and then on the other hand, there are people who say that everything, everything is God and everything in existence is Tao.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the beauty of it. I think the paradox that things can be opposites can be true at the same time. Um, yeah. Should we? You said you wanted to end with some. What was it?
It's a blessing. It's a Tao calligraphy blessing, and you can see this beautiful golden light ball. This is the book I spoke about, where they took the ground unification theory and explained this formula that is based on the previous wisdom of Einstein, and it was further developed with this physician who was really a doctor of physics and was a spiritual powers that my teacher, the spiritual wisdom that my teacher channels. So he actually got this formula through his channels. And there is a calligraphy. It actually looks like this. It's in the book. It's included. And a way how we can actually absorb more positive information from this Tao art, because it is a visible art that contains spiritual powers, that contains positive information, energy and matter, is that we can trace it. We follow the lines of the writing. It is like we would be writing. It's our soul writes first, our heart and mind write the words, and we become one with this mantra on a deeper level. And I would love to, because it's very difficult to just hold it and it's vice versa, you don't have it, and I think it's mirrored. I would love to trace for you and for the viewers who will be seeing this, and we can just do a little meditation, focus on one request, and I will invoke some Tao calligraphy healing powers that are also inside of my body to offer a one-time Tao calligraphy blessing for everyone, for union. It's union. Shen Qi Jing He Yi, soul, energy, matter, join as one.
Yeah, and for people listening, it works too. Some won't be able to see it, but on Spotify
Thank you
it
for
still works.
reminding. Exactly, it works even we won't see it. I showed it a few times, but we can see, maybe we can write something in the description where people can find it, so they're curious about it. All right, so we will close with this. This was an exciting session today. So you and everyone can choose one request where we would like to experience transformation. And it can be a physical request, an emotional, mental, or maybe a success in a project, an endeavor we are having, or a relationship. It's all about relationships here. Can be the relationship with ourselves or the relationship with someone. So this calligraphy has, in my experience and belief, the power to transform negative information that can cause blockages. So we are going to get a big blessing. So just relax. I'm tracing with my 5 fingers all put together. This is called 5 elements mudra. All the 5 elements join as one. And I will be tracing, and you can just close your eyes. It's always good to sit up straight, to keep the energy channel aligned so that energy can flow properly and that we can absorb the positive information in the light. And you can focus on your request and again visualize a golden light ball in that area. And I'm just making a brief invocation to connect with this sacred calligraphy, which is called Shen Qi Jing He Yi, to offer everyone a one-time blessing, and I'm also invoking some Tao calligraphy healing powers within my body. Tao calligraphy blessing, as it is appropriate and in heaven's will, to everyone who is watching, listening, begins now. And maybe you still remember the melody you can chant in your heart. Shen Qi Jing He Yi, 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 Shen Qi Jing He Yi. And we chant silently, focus on tracing this mantra, which is written here in this calligraphy in a certain way. It's called I-B-S style. It's called one stroke technique. So it's to keep the flow of energy like one flow, oneness consciousness. We don't lift the brush when we write, we just write the whole characters all together in one stroke. This mantra Shen Qi Jing He Yi aligns our soul, heart, mind, and body with one another, what also means that our consciousness is aligned with our soul, with our true essence. And when our consciousness is aligned, this has an impact on our thoughts, words, and actions. So this is not only for healing and transformation, this is also for prevention. To live in this aligned state prevents us from accumulating negative information. I'm going to trace the last round. And you can just breathe deep inside and just feel and observe for a moment. Maybe you could see the light when you were watching and receiving this. Maybe you could feel it. Maybe you didn't feel anything. It's all totally fine. So we're going to end the blessing, and you simply can put, if we wish, we don't have to, but if you like, you can put your hands in front of your heart to simply express gratitude to the universe for the blessing. And I say, how, which means good, get well, and thank you, love you, love you, and gong song, which means respectful return. So all the spiritual teams, holy beings that were serving during this blessing return to their ones. Thank you. And take a deep breath, and if you feel, you can open your eyes when it feels right. Otherwise, you just stay a little bit in meditation. That's okay too. Did
Yeah,
you observe anything, or how was this?
it feels rejuvenating and almost like if you, for your inner eye, see all these kind of little cells, or whatnot, how you want to think about it, just getting rejuvenated and like sleep or rest in a way. At least that's a part of the experience for me, and getting more back to myself, which again in my tradition or in many traditions is to come home and to focus. So focusing on yourself, doing practices, and not self-indulgent, but being about you. And when you realize who you are, you realize that this world is you. Uh, you are this world, but you need to first come back to source, come back to yourself, and being out in the world, doing things, thinking about things, watching TV tends to take us away from that. Even though when it is realized, that is, of course, yeah. Again, I just remembered also that it really changes for me, at least nowadays. It can go from just eating pizza and watching TV and living my life to doing a lot of spiritual practices. Just that it's more natural for me now than it used to be when I always did the same um, meditations each day and the same practices and really pushed myself. But I think there's a place for that too. And just like you said, in the Sun tradition, they also say just, and I mean, to they see that the human life is the epitome, or the best you can get, because then you're able to do these practices and um, get rid of karma and wake up and all those things. So that is really something to embrace and to practice. That is just practicing every second, and not practicing for just a minute in these traditions is seen as an abomination almost. Um, so it's you can stress out a lot if you want to, but I think, and from my experience too, being in deep meditation and doing these practices, that is, I felt that to be true too, to how important it is to see through the veil, or just being on point, staying with the practice, if it's the breath or counting your breath, or just being aware of your body, or doing a mantra, or doing a koan like in the Zen tradition. To be that, do that fully, is just so gratifying for the being that you are, basically. And doing this kinds of practices that we did now is also coming back and coming home. That is, for me, yeah, just feels great for me.
Mm. Thank you for sharing. When you were speaking, I was wondering if you have ever practiced together with a partner. I know this is a very personal question, but did you have a life partner that was also so spiritual like you, or where you could share this, or you could live this together?
Oh, you mean if I did? Uh, no, I usually, I've done a lot of. It's something called circling, which in which you meet people, and kind of, it's sort of a interpersonal meditation, you could say, maybe authentic relating, or I don't know what the best word for it is, but I've done a lot of that, and but I haven't really felt like doing spiritual practices with the partner, or the partner I have now, or partners that I had before. Um, I'm not sure why, but not, yeah, not in this way, at least. Or I mean, for me, it has been more just living my life basically, and having an intimate relationship and being loving and being loving towards each other, but more, I would say more like normal, I guess you could say. And then I've had my spiritual um, life on the side of and it's a long story. I don't want to go into it now, but no, I have not been practicing spiritual practices with partners as far as I can remember, at least. No.
Mm. Yeah, I'm just asking because in my true love classes and so on, we practice with the soul when the partner isn't available. So we connect with the soul, and we also dedicate the practice to help them in their ascension. And we focus on on the other on the growth of everyone. And I found it's very powerful when two souls chant, or when two souls are united from heart to heart and soul to soul, and focus on the same goal. It's beautiful when they have realized the purpose, or have aligned with the purpose, and they realize that serving one another is uplifting one another, is actually serving everyone. And I like that very much. Yeah, because one of these practices is done often. It's just a soulmate, to actually connect with the Shanti Ding of the soulmate, to align the frequency and vibration, to remove the blockages that there could be, because this mantra can heal and transform the blockages that are also in a relationship, not only within us, also in a relationship. And I just had the picture of it when I was doing this. Yeah, so.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that was a lot. I guess we're gonna call it a day. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you very much, and hope that you who listened or watched it got something out of it too. Do you have any last words?
No, I just be so grateful, and I'm looking forward to the Lovers' Day, which is going to be in February in this month, and I expect a lot of healing, transformation, high vibration. So we will see if we see each other in that week, and or if we can offer something to our viewers, because I know many are really excited about that special day of the year. So that's maybe a little preview. There will be something special for Lovers' Day this year coming from us. Okay, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the next time. Thank you.